I'm thinking about titling this Cheesesteaks with a Gay. I find that to be the most ridiculous title. And
it'll probably get some clicks.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Cheesesteaks with. I'm actually really excited about this conversation today for personal reasons. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why I have a lot of my guests on, because I have something I want to talk about. And I appreciate you guys listening. So, Zach here, who I affectionately refer to as Z, those, who know him call him that. Man, there's a lot of elements to our relationship. You are a friend, first and foremost, basketball teammate of our gold members, intramural league championship finalist. We lost in the championship, right?
Yeah.
Which we shouldn't even been in the championship to begin with, which is a testament to our teamwork. Frequent customer of the Uber.
Of course.
But I wanted to have this conversation because there was a very interesting situation, I could say, in the summer. Something that I didn't even know it happened, and you were pretty fired up, and you don't get fired up often. A little backstory, actually, before that. We've played basketball for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I don't even know how I actually found out. Eventually, I was like, oh, Zach's gay. Like, I hung out with this guy for 3 or 4 years, and I had no idea. And my thing is, like, if people are like, how could you not know? It's like, I couldn't tell you how many women my straight friends have slept with. You know what I mean? It's like
it's like you look at the people like we play with. I couldn't tell you who's single, who's not.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's weird how you can spend so much time with someone and feel like so close to them. And I do think, I do consider you and all those other guys like close friends. But then outside of basketball, it's just kind of like, I have no idea who they are,
It's like we text about the Sixers.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's pretty much
right.
it.
Or you ask for a ride, like I need to go to the airport, whatever. But what had happened was just this past summer, I invited you to a different game because we needed numbers. And I mean, you played there a handful of times. You might even play there 2 summers. Like, it wasn't an issue right away is what I'm getting at. Yeah. And one day afterwards, you texted me, you were all fired up. And I think you said something like, I don't know if you were going to say something, or you might even said like you were going to beat his ass or something. I'm sure emotions, like, I don't know if you were actually threatening by it. But I remember, like, man, I've never seen Zach this fired up. And what happened was they didn't even call you the word, right?
I don't believe so.
Right.
No.
But somebody said the word fag, and I know you don't like the word, that word, so we won't, say that. I just want to be clear, when we're referring to the F word, we're not referring to fuck, we're referring to that word. Somebody said that word, and you were all fired up, and what was even more interesting to me is, like, I didn't even register it happening, because it's like, it's not like it's common, but it's not like, it's just not something I remember. It just made me think that you're, not to be stereotypical, but you're not stereotypically gay, And I'm probably not unique in the fact that, like, you're around a lot of people that probably say, like, I'm sure you hear that a lot on the basketball court. I just kind of, one, I wanted to hear your perspective, and 2, that situation specifically, I kind of wanted to hear your take on, like, because, you see things through your own lens. And I wanted to know, like, what was my role there, because, like, as a friend, as someone who brought you there, on one hand, you're in the right to be upset by that word, right? And on the other hand, that guy is definitely in the wrong to use that word. But on this weird third hand that I can't really explain, he's wrong, but he wasn't, like, intending it to be, like, it wasn't personal, And, like, I know it's wrong, and you can go down this, like, rabbit hole of thinking. I thought about if you came back saying, like, yo, let's chill with that word or something, which would be the most, it would be why? And, like, I'm not going to say, like, well, Zach takes offense to it,
No, for sure.
It's so it's so unique.
I mean, I know what you mean, because, like, I grew up in the sports world, like, that's, like, played sports my whole life.
And not even sports world. You're a little younger than me, right?
I'm 27.
27. All right. So we were the last generation that really owned that word. We really owned, like, calling things gay,
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, that, like, I really don't, like, it's annoying to hear, but it's not, like, it's whatever. Like, I got used to that.
Yeah. Like growing up. Like,
yeah. But, like, specifically for that situation, it's like, it even takes me a second to realize that a person said it. Was it that, or am I just, like...
Are you reading into it, right?
Or, like, did I hear something wrong, or whatever?
Right.
Like, like in that case, he blatantly said it.
Yeah.
Like you knew what. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it's weird because you're right. Like if I say something, then I turn into the asshole because like I'm making a huge deal out of it. But like,
Right.
I know he didn't mean it like that, but he still said it. And
Right.
it's like honestly, even I still don't know. But for instance, in regards to you, is like we had a bachelor party a while ago.
Yeah.
And the guy that was getting married, like I didn't know probably half the people there, so he told everybody beforehand, like, hey, this guy's coming, he's gay, like, just avoid that language. And I didn't hear anything all weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
I mean, I felt comfortable in that because
Yeah.
I know, like, if anything was said, like, I had Dylan there, I had like 3 or 4 other friends. Like, if anything did happen, like, I know they would have my back.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't feel like, yeah, there's plenty of situations where I go into like a different setting that I'm not familiar with, and I'm like on edge like the whole time because I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, especially like.
So
again,
here's my question. Like, you know, you're going to this bachelor party, and even if you do hear that language and people are like making those jokes, like, I'm sure, and you gotta understand, I'm saying this from somebody who doesn't have that experience, so I don't know what that word feels like to you, right? But I'm sure deep down, you know, it's like, it's not really. It's in that Vince Vaughn movie, and Bill Burr has a bit about it. Like, what's that? The Dilemma. Did you see that? With
I have not.
Oh, but he's like, he says something. They're building an electric car, and he's like, oh man, you know, a typical electric guitar is gay, and I don't mean gay like homosexual. I mean gay like your in-laws are coming to stay for the weekend kind of gay.
Yeah.
You know, and like. And again, it's, you know, comedian. And then Bill Burr has a joke. He has a whole bit on that word, you know, and the joke is, and the underlying truth behind the joke is like, it's not really about gay or anything personal. It's just kind of like
it means
a
stupid.
term in the ether, you know what I mean? But at the same time, there's the association. I know. So, like, if you're at that bachelor party and you hear that, like, or you're on edge, like, are you on edge because like you don't know how they might look? Like, I'm sure you know it's not personal, right?
Yeah.
Or you think maybe not. Maybe it does feel personal. I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
It doesn't feel personal because a lot of times like it's just used as like, oh, that's stupid, that's whatever.
Right.
Like stop being a bitch or like however you want to say it. Like, I've never, like, been called it directly because they found out I was gay, so they said it to me.
Right.
So it's nothing like that. It's
That's
just, like,
a really good observation, or, like, distinction, I guess. Yeah.
Like, it's never like I came out to somebody and they're like, oh, you're a whatever.
Right.
It's just, like, for instance, you know, I love going to, like, dive sports bars, like, to watch the game.
Which is probably like a landmine for that
so like,
especially in Delco.
So like the first time I go to the place, like I'm freaking out because like I'm surrounded by, let's be honest, old straight white guys that are into sports. So it's like like my worst nightmare.
Right.
And it's funny, I was just joking with Dylan, who's like, I would never take my boyfriend like to any of these places because like if like a person says something to me, like whatever, like I'm big, I'm like I could handle yourself. I could handle myself. But, like, I'd be afraid for him at that point because like he's the complete opposite of me. So like I wouldn't want him in that situation.
And to be fair, like you know, if you are going to that dive bar with these old guys, there probably is an element where you don't know if it's personal. You know, you don't know how much, especially like strangers in general. Like I do think like the younger a person is, they're probably more likely to like just be like, hey, this is the world we live in, you know? But I feel like that was not the world they lived in. Sure. And I could understand being a little on edge, like hearing that at a dive bar from an old random stranger than somebody at a bachelor party, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that is probably a little like, and you probably have this thing in you, like, what, like, you got a problem? You know, like, you know, like,
and again, it's back to that, like, do I say something and start a huge thing, or just let it go and move on? But then it's like, you know, I hate like it sucks to hear that.
Yeah.
And like I know they don't mean it. Well, sometimes they mean it depending on what they're talking about. So it's always like that weird thing of like the fine line of like saying something. Like most times if I hear it, like let's go back to basketball, like whatever. Like I've heard it from friends and like not in that way. I'm just like, hey, language, like just watch your language. and like, oh, something like they apologize, whatever, and
Yeah.
like over time they stop saying it, like whatever. It's like it's one of those things. Like I kind of like if I hear it once or twice, like whatever, but like if it gets to be like 3-4 times in a certain amount, like a certain time period,
Yeah.
that's when I'm like, dude, like,
Yeah.
like seriously, come on. But yeah, like I don't try to be that guy that like starts something over it. Like I
Yeah.
was like, hey, just watch your language.
Right. What was I gonna say about the dive bar situation? Oh, my channel is what I was thinking about. Um, there's like, and I think part of this is like being from Philly, maybe the Northeast in general. Like I get like it's like 50-50. People outside of the Philly area, like, man, this guy's so high strung. Like he's always starting fights, yada yada yada. And people in the Philly area is like, no, this is how people are there,
Yeah.
And like again, different, but you just try to relate. And if some old guy at the dive bar uses that word, even if it's not directed at you, like you want to stand up for yourself, just like if someone in my Uber is like kind of being an asshole, even though I know he's just like drunk or, it's not like personal, he's just like an asshole to Uber drivers. You kind of want to stand up for yourself a little bit, and you want to like, hey, like this, this is my space. I have every right to, and granted, Uber's a little different because this is my car, but like, if you're in a bar, like, it's like, hey, I want to be able to come in this bar and not hear that shit.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, you want to say that word? Why don't you say it to my face? Like, I don't know. I kind of, I see more of what you're saying now, for sure.
Yeah, and it's like I just went to a bar a few weeks ago for like the Monday Night Football game. It's like I walk in, there's like a group of like bikers, and like they just look like a rough crowd. I'm like, I'm gonna go sit over there. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
So it's like I don't want to, because like if I'm out with somebody, like obviously like I'm gonna be myself or whatever, and like I'm trying to avoid the like overall, just like I'm not gonna go close to them. Like, I don't know them. I don't. They scare me.
Yeah, I mean, even as a straight guy, sometimes dude. I was in this bar one time, and we were in what's the city in Rhode Island? Providence. Man, there were these two bikers that came in, and they were huge, and they just looked like problems. Tattoos everywhere. And my buddy's an Army Ranger, and he was like, yeah, we're gonna have to get out of here soon. There's gonna be a problem here, and like not us, but like they just look like people that were gonna start problems. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, that I could definitely see that. Now you mentioned like, so you just moved to LA.
Correct.
I don't know anything about LA, but I was surprised you were like, you wanted to join a basketball league and you were a little unsure like where to join, either for safety or comfort. Like if your boyfriend comes, like is LA, because Philly's very gay friendly, like there's literally a gay neighborhood. Well, right.
Yeah, I mean, like
right.
Every big city, obviously, they have progressive people because that's just the way it works.
Cities go.
Yeah, but like when joining the basketball league, I could join anyone I wanted to, obviously, but like I was super particular because I'm like, odds are my boyfriend will come with me to these games, and like would I feel comfortable walking to the gym and let's say like Compton or whatever with like my boyfriend?
Yeah.
Like no, I wouldn't. So it's very like, and again, it's just like a super straight, like it's sports, like it's very so
it's a very straight world. Yeah,
who knows what? So even if it's in like, let's say in Philadelphia, like like you just said, they're very gay friendly. Even if it's in Philadelphia, odds are the people you're playing with might not be that way.
Right.
Yeah, so I was very hesitant just to join like any league. So I really I researched for a while, and like even like I knew that some areas were super safe, or like I knew the area, so like I looked in those areas versus like downtown LA or something like that.
Gotcha.
Like I wasn't gonna just like go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know anything about LA. I assume downtown's like, is it safer there?
I mean, it's like Skid Row and
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's like
I guess there's a lot of homeless in LA. I would just assume because it's California.
Yeah, there's a ton.
They seem to.
But it's like there's low income areas and all that stuff too, and like I don't know, and like where I live, like I know the area pretty well, so like I feel safe there. But would I feel safe somewhere else that I don't know?
Yeah,
like probably not.
Right.
No.
I think about that a lot too. actually working on an Uber book. I'll give you one of the first copies because you had one of the first copies of I Hate You, Jimmy.
I bought the first one.
And I've been thinking a lot about how it seems so stupid when I'm like thinking about these stories, how like I'll get like really nervous, but then like something familiar or like I'll be in an area I'm familiar with and I won't be as nervous, you know?
Yeah,
even though
sure.
when I'm thinking back, like all the facts on the page, I'm like, man, I was stupid for doing that. You know what I mean? But I'm like, well, I was comfortable there because I know that neighborhood. You know what I mean? And like on the flip side, I'm like, wow, all the facts on the page, I was totally fine there, but I was bugging out because I don't know the area.
Well,
you know?
it's like let's just say if I go to Philly and like I don't know the area, like I get super sketched out. I go to Chester and I feel totally fine. Like I walk down the street, like, hey guys, how's it going?
Because you're familiar with Chester.
Like I've worked there. I played softball, like all that stuff. Like I know the area. It's like I'm more comfortable there. But it's like
which I'm sure there's a lot of parts of Philly that
the deadliest city in
you're a lot safer in a lot of parts of Philly than in Chester. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And it's even like, well, speaking of like Uber and stuff, when like me and my boyfriend, when we go out and like we get an Uber, it's like that's even weird. Cause it's like because you read like the horror stories of like these couples that get beat up and stuff because like the Uber driver is like an asshole.
Oh,
and stuff
really?
Like that. Yeah,
I've never even heard of it. Yeah,
and or like they get kicked out or whatever, and like.
Oh, really?
So like even just like a simple thing as like it's like you always gotta like second get like question and second guess like is that the best option?
Yeah, I mean I guess if you think about it, you know, there's enough Ubers in the world or in the country or wherever, and you know if someone has like really strict religious like leanings or something. Yeah, wow, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, so it's like when we get.
So you've heard stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like and like
I would have never even thought of that.
And like when we get an Uber, it's like we can't we can't be cute together and like we just kind of like sit apart and just like how's it going?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's like and it's with everything like walking down the street we can't we don't know because I mean I'm sure you've heard stories of like just gay couples that walk down the street will get like jumped.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things. Like,
even does that happen often now? You think?
Probably more than you think. Like especially like I'm just gonna say for you like from your perspective like you don't hear about it.
Right.
If it happens across the country or in whatever. Like it would probably have to happen in your neighborhood for you to hear about it.
You know, it's so crazy. I'm having such like a role reversal because same thing as an Uber driver. One, because the algorithm, it feeds me everything, you know. So every time it does happen, you know, an Uber driver gets attacked or whatever. And two, it's more relevant to me. Where if, you know, a homosexual couple isn't really relevant to me. So even when I see that headline, it goes out of my head, just like when the guy said the word at basketball. Like, I didn't even, you know? And, wow, it's really interesting. And, like, wow, that's so interesting. Because, like, you know.
I'm sorry. And then also, too, like, the safest way to say this, the past 4 years of political activity, as we want to call it, did not help at all.
Tensions were a little high.
So it was a lot of, like, there were a lot of hate crimes, especially in like the South, where there was super Republican and all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, there was a lot. Even like, I mean, because I obviously it's like you said, just like the news you see because of, it was at least like once a month, like there was something.
So I remember, I don't know how deep into politics you want to get, but like I remember in Philly specifically, there was like I think a guy like what's the word, denigrated or desecrated like a Jewish cemetery, if I remember. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
But and they were all like, well, it's because of Trump, hate crimes are on the rise. And then it turned out the guy was a Democrat who was doing that to make people think Trump was raising it, you know. And so like I don't know, when I hear those stories I just wonder, like, you know, I wonder,
well, for instance, there was just a shooting in Colorado, I would say.
Dude, how my buddy always points this out. How pathetic is it that, like, it barely makes the news?
Oh,
You know, like,
you can save that for a different podcast.
but isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
like, oh, we're not sure
well,
where the shooting was.
it-
Yeah, the weekly shooting. I
well,
forget. I didn't hear about it. Where was it? You
well,
know,
it's
like,
sad because like my mom said something. She's like, oh, like I didn't hear about that. I'm like, well, yeah, because now you need a kill count of like 15 to make the news.
yeah, it's like if it's not double digits, like.
But yeah, so this guy shot up.
So sad.
Like this guy shot up a gay bar like just a few months ago, like not that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I heard on, maybe that's why, it's funny, dude. This is such an interesting conversation. Same kind of thing. I heard on the news they were talking about the Orlando shooting.
Yes, and that's probably why. Yeah.
Oh, I remember, like, I wonder if it's the anniversary or something. Same thing. It kind of went in one year at the other, but it was probably in the overarching story of this Colorado thing.
Yeah, so
wow.
Pretty much, whatever. And then they were interviewing this guy's dad. Dad could not care less that he shot up.
Oh, I did see this. Yeah, the dad was nuts.
Was like,
that's what I remember, actually.
Yeah, it was like, and like the dad was saying, he's like, oh yeah, like my friends were calling me saying they did it, and I was like, and I'm like, and like he found out that like he wasn't gay or whatever. He's like, whew, well that's a relief. I'm like, your son just killed 20 people, and that's the relief,
dude. Yeah, it literally looked like a movie. Like you wouldn't believe it.
And like, I know I should have been offended by that, but like. I was cracking up. I'm like, there's no way that this guy's real right now.
Right? Yeah, I thought the same thing.
And it's one of those things. It's like I know that nothing will change that guy's mind.
Yeah.
Like
right.
So like, there's no point in even like getting mad about it because why? Like it's pointless.
Right.
So I was just like laughing at him. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
That he's serious right now.
Dude, I remember seeing that exact interview. Wasn't it? Didn't the kid or guy who shot up, didn't they say he was transitioning?
They tried to...
And like, then some people were like, well, he's just saying that.
Well, so it was funny because his lawyer was like, oh, he's non-binary, which means he doesn't identify as male or female, he kind of just is himself. And that usually infos you go by pronouns they and them. But the whole court case, his lawyer kept calling him, he, and all that stuff. So it's like, you can't claim this.
Yeah.
And then your lawyer doesn't even
use it doesn't even go by it, right.
Because the whole point of that was like, try and throw out the hate crimes.
Oh, gotcha.
So it would get like a lesser sentence. I believe. I don't know. Like I didn't, but like that would make sense to try and get rid of the hate crimes because now like they're backing down on that.
Right.
But like I thought that was funny too because I'm like you're going to jail for life anyway. So like what's it matter?
Yeah. Dude, speaking of hate crimes, for whatever reason, that just made me think of another story. Dude, it's so funny. Oh man, I think that Uber thing is like so interesting. Oh, the other thing I want to say about that though, about how like I'll remember a story I heard about an Uber driver getting attacked. Where for you, who doesn't drive Uber, goes in on any route to the other. The other thing too, I think is really important to, I guess, remember, like the way people act, myself included, is like it only takes one time. So like, as somebody who has never seen a hate crime, right? As somebody who like doesn't have that feeling in them, when I hear you're nervous about, walking down the street with your boyfriend, I'm like, oh, you're a little extreme, But it only takes one time for it to happen, Yeah. And like, if you're hearing these stories, and I'm sure, and I know I get comments like this where people think I'm being a little paranoid driving an Uber, but I'm like, dude, it only takes one time,
Yeah, and because for like the one, so years ago when I was like just starting to see somebody, and we were walking on the street, this guy like he walked past us and flipped us off like as we walked past him like the whole time, like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, how's your night? So it's like. I don't know. Yeah, and then like you read all the horror stories, so it's just like afraid to, like not afraid, but like when I go somewhere, it's like okay, like
it's in your head, and you want to mitigate your risk.
Yeah,
that's wild. But as far as the hate crime, for whatever reason this popped in my head. I remember reading about you. Maybe you remember this. This was like at least 5 years ago, maybe more, maybe less. At least, maybe less. But they're, again, you know what? I think that the girl was like the daughter of a police captain or something, but there was a fight in Philadelphia, Center City, Philadelphia. Just drunken bullshit. It's like, 1 a.m. and it was either in the neighborhood or right around it. If my memory served me right, it's like 13th and Spruce, like right around there. And there was just like groups of people just being drunken assholes, and they get in a fight, right? Well, in the fight, the guys used that word or said whatever it was, But it could have been like, I've been in situations where I've called that, it's like a fight, you know what I mean? Like people are just saying it. But it turns out that the guys that they were actually fighting were gay. So they were going to charge them with a hate crime on top of that. And I remember reading it, and I might be butchering these details up, but the general principle of it, like, really messed me up. That it just bothered me that, like, dude, we're talking about people that physically assaulted someone else. And that's bad. But it's really bad if they said that word. It's like, shouldn't it be opposite? Isn't the worst part about this is that they put hands on someone else and hurt them physically? You know what I mean? Well, and it's kind of like, well, two straight people can fight, or two people can fight as long as they're not angry about, bigger picture ideals. You know what I mean? Like, but the second you bring in one of these protected things, then it's really bad. It's like, no, it's bad when you punch a stranger on the street regardless.
Well, yeah, that is true. But then you got to think of like the whole, hate crime thing and that like spurring other stuff.
I get that, but what I'm saying is, from every piece of evidence, it looked like these were just two drunk people.
Yeah,
fighting.
for sure. Well, I think
like them being gay wasn't the impetus of causing the fight. It just happened to be a word they said, and they happened to be gay. You know?
I mean, like that definitely comes down to like who was the person that said it, like as a person. Like if you I'm not saying that you would ever use that, but like if you got into a fight and you said that word and like now they're freaking out, like that's where like, okay, well, like I've known Eddie for 10 years, like he's not that person.
Yeah,
like,
but they would still use it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, like that's what. Yeah.
Here's a better example. Check this out. Imagine me and you get in a fight. You call me that word, like you punch me and call me that word, and you get sentenced for 5 years for assault, or I don't know the actual terms, but you get charged with assault. I punch you back and use that word. Now I get charged with assault and a hate crime.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, wait a second, this is a little messed up.
Yeah, I mean, well, like that could be, like that's any sort of crime. Or
that's the I'm talking about the idea of hate crimes. Just kind of like it's sort of like isn't every violent crime coming from hate? You know what I mean?
It's like such a fine line that like, and now like nowadays it's like you want to protect like all groups of people. I mean, it's the same thing. Like as you said, a guy went to a Jewish like cemetery and like I think he spray painted it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you want to still protect that group of people, so you're gonna like do anything you can.
Right.
So it's like that. Yeah, it's like it's like that sort of. It's like the same thing. It's like with some of these mass shootings, like they go to like the one in what was it, Charlotte? Like you went to an all black church in Charlotte. It's like you're gonna protect those people as much as possible.
Right.
That's kind of like the whole hate crimes.
Yeah. I guess I think what really bothered me about that story was it seemed obvious that the identity that's being protected wasn't the cause of this.
And then too, it's like when something like that happens, obviously like the media will run with it for like 48 hours max, and then they move on. But like if you I'm sure if you looked up that whole court case and like, well, what actually happened, like they're gonna look at the guy as a person, see who he is, like get like the witnesses in, what do they call it, like material witnesses, or whatever.
Character witnesses.
Yeah, and like they'll find out like so like in court they're gonna figure out if it's a hate crime or not. But like the media, like they're just gonna run with anything they hear for the first 48 hours. So.
Speaking of media, I'm curious to hear your thoughts of. I don't know if you've seen any of the memes. I mean, it's like pretty obvious even if you haven't seen it. But when's Pride Month? June. And like, have you ever seen the memes where it's like, yeah. Well, have you seen the memes where it's like companies during Pride Month?
Oh yeah.
And then, so like, as far as the media, whether standing up for hate crimes or things like that, like what,
yeah,
I feel like I have so many years to catch up with like your thoughts, because I've never, I just found out you were gay a couple years ago.
Well, it's funny because like the LGBT community has this running inside joke every year of like these huge corporations that sell out for Pride Month. It's like they all sell like Pride merchandise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's always like a giant inside joke to all of us.
Yeah.
That like, oh, June 1st, like let's go give these people Pride money or like gay money as like we all call it.
Oh, that's funny. But do you do it?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't buy it because I mean, like these companies, they need to get like a gay person on like the media or whatever, like because the stuff that they design is just awful.
Really?
But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so it's like it's funny because like not funny, haha, but like ironic because a lot of these like those companies. So like the one foundation, they always do a report of like which corporations are the most friendly in terms of like the donations, what they support, and all that stuff like throughout the year. So come Pride Month, they always release that report of like like let's take Target for instance, like those super progressive like support whatever, but then you get into like I don't know, I'm not gonna say a company because I don't want to like, but some major companies that we would think because they sell Pride merch, so like but then like 11 months out of the year they're donating to like Christian groups and like all that stuff.
People that are adversaries of the cause, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you sell this stuff in stores, but then you're taking that money and you're donating it to
people fighting
a group that's trying to overturn marriage equality and stuff like that. So it's always like an inside joke to us, but like, all right, who gets our gay money for this year?
Yeah.
And there's it's crazy. Like, there's a lot of them. Like, obviously, the major one that people think of is Chick-fil-A, which is totally true. But there's some like.
But they make a damn good chicken sandwich.
Listen, I just had this conversation the other day with somebody, and it's like, listen, until like that chicken sandwich can trump any homophobia. Like, I was just there yesterday. Like, I'm still gonna eat it. Like, we all know that they're making no money, so my $10 isn't gonna do much. But yeah, so like, there's a lot of corporations that like. You wouldn't think of. Like, obviously, we all think of Chick-fil-A, but there's, like, even, like, your most basic, like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I don't know any. But, like, Home Depot supports a lot of those bad foundations and stuff like that.
So, like, what is, when you say, like, gay-friendly, like, you know, in 2022, like, what, I guess, are the companies or is the progress contingent on keeping marriage equality like
it's not
firm? What I'm saying is like it's a lot different than it was 30 years ago before we were even born. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what
I mean, again, this is just for me. Obviously, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what you think. Yeah.
Like it's just really like it's like one of those things. It's like here's how you act in front of people, which is like store what the public sees, and there's what you do when like the nobody's looking. So like, what do these companies do with the with the profits or like with the people? You know, like there's some corporations that'll march in pride parades, like for Philadelphia, for instance, like 6ABC, like the local news station, they're in the pride parade,
right?
Like the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers, they're all marching, like things like that, like. What do they? And then there's some companies that will donate money to like certain charities or like the Trevor Project and all that stuff.
Is the Trevor Project?
I could be wrong, but it's like suicide prevention for like LGBT teens and stuff like that, and like a support network for that. So it's like what do they do outside of like what they do, like show in stores, like pretty much.
Gotcha.
I mean, and there's a bunch of companies, and then too, it's like, how do they treat their employees? Like, for instance, this one company, I think it was a restaurant, a waitress or manager of the restaurant, like, kicked out a gay couple or whatever. It was actually in California, in LA. It was an actor went somewhere with his husband. The manager said something, and within 24 hours, like, that manager was fired. And it's like, how do they act when something happens in their store?
But was no, hold on. They didn't kick him out because they were gay, though.
Yeah, like
I just cannot believe that.
You 100%.
Dude, there's no way.
100. I can look it up right now.
I call you. I'm sure. See, this is what I'm talking about with the hate crime stuff.
Yeah.
Because, like, in a situation, if I was there,
it's like so mind blowing to you that like that could even happen. But
right.
literally, like I think he kissed his husband, and the manager came over and it's like, hey, like we need to ask you to leave
because of the kissing.
Yeah.
All right.
Like,
but again, like, and you know, maybe I sound like an asshole here, but you know, if it's like a kid, like a peck, versus if they're like, you know, having sex at the table, you know,
well, it's funny.
You would ask a straight couple to leave if you did that, you know.
Well, think about it.
I just can't believe that in L.A. You know, like, well, in 2022, like this manager would like, why does this manager just like volunteer to get fired? Like, what the hell?
Well,
no way.
Well, let me throw this hypothetical. Let's say like you out just walking the street.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that like starts to kiss or whatever, and they're straight. You probably wouldn't even bat an eye.
Well, it depends how they kiss, you know?
Well, let's just say, like, it's fair that, like, whatever, like, they're kissing, and like, they continue to...
And I think I noticed them. I think I noticed, like,
you know, but, like, you know, you're like, okay.
You judge the couple, like, oh, yeah, he did pretty good.
But if it's, like, let's say it's, like, two, like, let's say me, like, two big guys with beards that, like, start kissing, like, the same way, you, like...
I'd have a different thought process. I'll admit that.
Well, like, yeah, so, like, you're gonna see that a lot different than, like, a guy with, like, his hot girlfriend or whatever.
That's true. So you're saying the manager maybe saw them
it's like,
thinking they were being more extreme than they actually were.
It's like you would notice it more.
I still can't believe in L.A. Like,
there's plenty of, like, it's crazy, because, like, there's people that are like, oh, like, you know, there's stories out there, like, more news of, like, of gay couples holding hands and like they're told not to. It's like if they were a straight couple, like nobody would have a problem.
Yeah.
But because of that, like they're told to leave.
I don't know, man. I just have this like strong distrust of the news. There's a story. This is different, but I think it's similar in the idea of like protecting people. Right? Do you remember the story of the? There was a Starbucks manager. I think it was Starbucks. She asked a guy asked to use the bathroom in the Starbucks, and he wasn't a customer. He was waiting for somebody. I think it happened in Philly. And she said bathrooms are for customers only. And I think she asked him to leave. She definitely didn't let him use the bathroom, and I think she asked him to leave because he wasn't a customer. And he said, "You're only doing this because I'm black." And she said, "Well, it's because you're not a customer." She ended up getting fired. And I think it's interesting. She was Latino, which, you know, it's, again, going back to the media, sometimes I feel like the media treats Latinos like a protected class, and then other times Latinos are white people. You know, it's very interesting. But what I'm saying is, like, I wonder if, you know, I in my opinion, I feel like that woman at Starbucks got fired because the guy who complained was black, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas I wonder if this manager in LA got fired because the actor who complained was gay. You know what I mean?
I mean, I can't speak on the Starbucks. I mean, that the worker had a fair point. I don't know why she would have asked her to leave, but like,
right, yeah.
Any Starbucks that you go to, the bathrooms are for customers only. Like,
well, not anymore. They changed that.
Did they?
Because of that event.
Oh, I didn't know that. But like,
oh, dude, it was so hilarious because as somebody who drives Uber, I always have a hard time trying to find a bathroom. And like, sorry, I'll let you go.
Yeah, but like, I know that's like the rule of Starbucks. Well, at the time, at least. Like,
yeah, at the time,
it's for customers. I mean, there's still places that do that, like smaller places in like the city,
for sure.
Like customers only. Why she would ask him to leave, I don't know. Especially if he was there with somebody that was a customer. But yeah, like in terms of in the story I'm talking about, it's like if you're blatant enough about it and like you tell him we're asking you to leave because of this, then like
you're saying it didn't even need to be said.
I think he did say it. Like I think he told them like there's people that are uncomfortable with like
I just have such a hard time believing that. I gotta find this story.
I'll find it later for you. But yeah, I mean, because like I saw it and then like I read and they. But back to what we were, because there's like let's take for instance like athletes that'll like they get mad and they say the F word and they all release the same stupid statement of like that's not who I am and all that stuff. It's like clearly it is.
Yeah, right.
Like when I get mad, my first thought's not to say like the N word at somebody or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Because that's not the way I am. Like
Right.
you clearly use that or you think that language a lot, and
Right.
you say it out loud,
Right.
like in the heat of the moment.
Right.
So it's like they all release and like there's some people that like I know what's his name, John Gruden, the Raiders coach.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, all those and like he gave
All
like
those emails,
some
yeah.
half-assed
Yeah.
response, but then there's other cases where like some people like there was somebody, I forget who exactly, but you know he got called out for it. He apologized, but then he went ahead and took like sensitivity training. Like
Oh, really?
he volunteered at like an LGBT center in his
Oh, wow.
in like his home in like his city and all that. So
Yeah.
like and like there's people that think like, oh well, like you know that people can't change. It's like you can if you want.
Yeah.
It's like the half-assed apology, and then you just go about your day because you're rich and famous, and you don't need to worry about it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, he can change, but he's not going to because
Right.
he's not even trying.
Yeah. What was it like, you know, I'm sure you looked up to sports players growing up, like,
Yeah.
you know, as most people into sports, you know.
As we do, yeah.
Yeah. Like, was it hard, how do I say this? Like, if maybe you didn't have the experience where somebody you really liked used that language, but, like, was it hard? Kind of, I'm thinking a lot about what you said about how it's, like, a very, I don't want to say it's a homophobic world, but I don't know if sports are gay friendly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, was that hard? Like, you know, maybe you're seeing, you know, B-roll footage of like a Sixers practice or something, and they're like, stop being a bitch or whatever, you know, stop being whatever. You know, if you're seeing these guys you like, just like that toxic masculinity, so to speak, like, was that hard? Like, man, I used to like that guy, and he's an asshole.
Well,
you know?
it's funny because the same could be said about like any famous person, like actors and all that stuff too. Like, is those times where like, you know, if there's a band or like a new actor I like, okay, let's see like this person's thoughts on this. And
right.
Yeah, so like just like I'd be googling like, and then that night like you get trapped in those rabbit holes of like searching stuff.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, what is this person
Yeah.
like? And you just like look, and it's like, okay, so it's like I can like them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but like
Eighth grade Z is like picking his favorite sports teams based on the star players' views on marriage equality.
No, and too, it's like it's funny because like now with the NFL and like the media days and stuff, there was one sports website called Outsports where that's like they cover like all the LGBT stuff in sports, and like they're big enough now where they send like the Super Bowl media day, like they'll send somebody,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
like that person will ask players during the media day, like, hey,
Yeah.
like what's your thoughts on this? And it's like they always put out a thing like after any championship, like here's what we found, and like there's some people that like will blatantly avoid the question and be like, oh, it's a locker room war team, we all play together. But then you get some people like JJ Watt or whatever, who like make it like oh yeah, sure, like if they're gay, like who cares? I'm still gonna have them over for dinner, like, and they make like a really like they go out of their way to make that strong gesture of like,
Right.
Of course, like they'll be welcome.
Yeah.
But then you get those other people that are like, we're a team,
Right. Giving that cookie cutter answer.
It's like what their agent fed them.
Yeah. I thought of when you were talking about the sports world and like how it's not, how do I say? Basically, let me put it like this: I was watching one of the bowl games yesterday, and Bowling Green and whoever they were playing. What they talked about, the announcers were like, both of these organizations are being so progressive, trying to change the culture, and they showed like 7 women, or maybe 6, 3 on each team, like athletic trainer, director of operations, like just whatever, like these women who had these higher up roles for these football teams. And in this conversation, when you mentioned something earlier, it got me thinking, like, in a world where corporations are, in June, so like, oh, look what we do. And in a world where, you got these protected groups with hate crimes and like, you see, oh, this is the first Asian to raise this high in Congress, or this is the first black woman to do this, that, and the other. I literally can't think of I can think of one, that Michael Sam guy.
Yep.
But other than that, it's like, you know, there's no colleges like nobody in the sports world, in this world of being so progressive, nobody's proud of look how many gay guys we have on our team. You know, this is the first openly, you know, so and so.
Well, it's funny you
And
say
in
that.
that sports world, it's like it's still kind of like, hey, we're cool, but we're just gonna,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well, it's the same thing too, because like the longest time the joke, well, not the joke, but it was like, what's gonna happen first, a woman president or a gay president?
Right.
And that's always been like
right.
There was a coach for the 49ers that was a woman and was also a lesbian. Again, that was news in my world, but probably not yours.
Was she a linebacker coach?
I forget exactly.
And I might sound like a total, you know, asshole saying this, but I think I think there's a big difference between being a lesbian in the NFL versus being a gay guy in the NFL.
Oh, 100%.
So
I mean,
yeah.
Well, because if you think about it, like this is gonna get. You might have to cut this out.
I mean, it's up to you if you want to cut it.
You might have to cut this out for like Missy's sake. It's like, you know, straight masculine guys. If it's, you know, if a lesbian couple starts making out, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like whatever. But
yeah, dude, that happened to me. I was down the shore one time, and there was these two very good looking girls making out in the bar, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of. I thought that when you were like, if you saw two guys walking down the street, you know, I always think of that is because the girl actually called me out. She's like, "What's your problem?" I was like, I don't have a problem. She's like, you've never seen two girls? Like she was basically like
yeah, but mostly on my phone.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. She was like, you know, why are you so upset? I was like, I'm not upset about this at all. By all means, proceed.
Yeah. But like, let's say you put like drop two gay guys in that situation, like they're probably gonna get hate crimed.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I joke about that all the time, like with my boyfriend, of like, we can't go there, like we're just gonna get hate crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
you're gonna get HC'd.
Yeah, but it's like it's like that, like I feel like at least for like in the sports world, that's probably a bit more accepting because like guys are into that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're interested in the same thing, right?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so
straight
like,
men and lesbian women.
Exactly, but like if you drop a gay guy in there, like it's gonna be a bit weird because like growing up, would you want a gay guy in the same locker room as you? Like, you'd probably be a bit weirded out by that.
When I was in high school, for sure. You know,
exactly.
Like, and you know, I don't know. I wonder that because, like, you know, I'm old enough now to know that, like, I know how big the world is. You know, so like, you know, I go to the YMCA, and like, I'm like, you know, I'm not a shy guy, so it's just like I'm comfortable in there. We're all like adults in there. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, there's probably gay guys in here. I'm like, you know, so what? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm maybe a little more open than most guys.
Enjoy the show, boys.
Right. I'm not one of those guys like, hey, so how's the weekend?
But yeah, so like there was Michael Sam, there was Jason Collins in the NBA, who came out and then signed like the 10-day deal with like the Nets, I think, or the Celtics, so like he could play as an openly gay athlete. But yeah, there's like a lot of like soccer. There's a lot of LGBT people.
Soccer, there is.
Yeah. At least I
makes sense. It's such a gay sport.
Anyway, but yeah, like we're still all waiting for like that big athlete, like like imagine like LeBron James one day was like, by the way,
it's like, you ever see The Interview?
Oh yeah,
dude, that is one of the funniest movies. But Eminem's like, I'm obviously gay. It's obvious.
Yeah, but like, like just imagine like an all-star like championship player came out that would break the sports world.
You know, it's interesting to me because I feel like this day and age, everyone is so. Let me put it like this: if you think about statistically, right, what's more likely? That a woman played football and knew football well enough to rise in the ranks of the football world, or a gay guy played football, a guy that happened to be gay, I should say, played football. But despite that, you see the media parading all these women that have, you know, it's very unlikely, unless they were a kicker, played football at a collegiate level,
Yeah.
parading them like, oh, look at this woman in this position, that, and the other. But you don't hear that with gay guys,
Yeah, like,
you know? It just makes me think. I'm like, are there a lot of guys in the closet? Is it just like not, you know?
It's just not reported on, I think, especially in like the collegiate level, because like that one like the one website I was starting up, like they're always always posting like these coming out stories, and they post a lot of like D1 athletes. So like,
Really?
they get and not just in football, like basketball, swimming. It's like they have a chance to go pro.
Yeah.
It's just like not reported on.
Yeah. See, I wonder if that too is like the I don't know what the term is. Kind of like the temperature check of society, where I imagine, you know, if you're the athletic director of, you know, Auburn or an SEC school, and your starting outside linebacker comes out as gay, I would have a feeling that you probably don't want all the donors in the deep South, very Christian, to be like, you know, where it's like, hey, we got no problem with it. You know, he's not going to have a separate locker room or anything, but like, let's just not put it on the front page because so and so is on the board at Chick-fil-A and gives us $10 million every year.
Well, there's a lot of actors who have now said, like, as they're older, like, oh, like my agent at the time told me don't say anything.
Oh, really?
It's like I'll lose acting roles, or like I'll lose jobs, or whatever. Like I won't be.
Oh, wow.
Or, like I'll stop getting cast and stuff. So yeah, it wouldn't.
Now I feel like it's the opposite. I bet agents are like,
no. It actually just happened to Colton Haynes, I think it was. He was in like Arrow on the CW and stuff like that. He's like mid-20s, maybe early 30s. He was told not to come out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if it happens a lot. I mean, it probably happens more in sports.
In sports, for sure. I
like,
can see in sports, absolutely.
But yeah, there's been plenty of NFL players that have said, like, oh yeah, I played with like 6 or 7, like, and there's actually I read a book.
Congrats.
I worked really hard on it. Ryan something, he played for the Patriots. He came out after he retired. But he went to go see like a therapist at the time because like obviously it's like a huge struggle. And that therapist was like, listen, you ain't the first professional athlete to walk through my office like with the same issues. Like, you're fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like there's plenty of teams and stuff that like will help, and or like they like the team knows, but it's not just like public knowledge.
Yeah.
So like there's plenty of people that played in like, I mean, there was the one was it the Dolphins in like the 80s or something like that, or some Colts maybe, I don't know, but like it's considered like the gayest team in history because there was like 8 gay people on the team.
Really?
All came out later in life.
No way.
Yeah, so like in the 80s, like you got like a line, like it's like 4 linemen and stuff. Like,
that's wild.
Yeah, and they all came out like way later in life.
Oh, that's
like,
hilarious.
Yeah, so like there's plenty of athletes that are gay now.
Yeah.
And like their team might know about it, but not.
That's it makes me think. You hear, I don't know how much this is true. I'm sure it had to have happened at some point in history, but you know, you hear about like when a team's visiting, like if the Colts are in Miami, the Dolphins would send hookers to the players' room.
That's
you know?
Fantastic.
But like, imagine if they sent that to the gay team. Yeah. It didn't work. They're like, "Wow, how are we getting beat so bad?
They still beat us. What the heck?" And then I just forgot. There's the linebacker for the Bucks right now that's out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was on the Raiders, but then we don't know why that fell apart.
Well, oh, right. His agent made some calls immediately.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because like when that happened, like the news broke of John Gruden, that player actually like missed a week and like he took time off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he like didn't want to. Because obviously, like,
was he out at the time or no?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so like he just didn't want to like surround himself with that. Obviously,
yeah.
like you got the coach of the team. That's But yeah, so now he's on the Bucks.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But yeah, he's still.
Wow, see, and that's going back to exactly what. Sorry to cut you off, but I know the Bucks. Like I remember reading because Bruce Arians went to Temple.
Yeah.
And so did Todd Bowles. But like I remember reading about, it was in the Inquirer about how like there's all these women. There's not all these, but there was like 2 or 3 women coaching for the Bucks. and like that was very highly reported on.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see anything about this linebacker.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I know when he came out, it was on like ESPN for like a day.
Oh, okay.
So like it did make, and it's funny because I think he actually lives in Westchester.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's from Westchester. And it's funny because I follow him on Instagram. So like he'll post like one day like his highlights from the game, and then like the next day he's at like Linville Orchards with like his boyfriend or whatever. It's like it's so weird.
That is funny.
But yeah. I mean, it probably goes back to, you're focused on the news that you care about.
Yeah.
So everything else just.
Yeah. And I forget who I was talking. I think I was talking about this on a podcast, but or no, I was talking about this with hopefully my editor. I hope it works out. But kind of like the idea that we live in the Matrix in a sense, not so much like the movie, but it's like your Instagram feed is going to be very different than mine. You're up next on Spotify, and Netflix is going to be very different than mine. And it's like we got these algorithms tailor-made to what interests us.
And it's crazy, too, because, like, we both grew up in the same area.
Yeah.
Play basketball.
Yeah, right.
Like, we love the same movies.
Yeah.
We love, like...
Sixers, right.
Yeah,
but it's like...
But yet, if we go on each other's...
just going to fine-tune what is... And, somehow the phone knows, like, when I see that headline about the Colorado shooting, it doesn't really matter that much to me, so it's not going to show me more.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like, oh, this is important to him.
Yeah.
Or that Uber driver matters to me, but doesn't matter to others. So it's like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I have one more question, but I'm getting ready for a cheesesteak. How about you?
I'm ready to go.
All right, so I got to ask, and I know I can't be the only one thinking this, but when you were asking me about the locker room, and I'm sure every guy thinks this, but nobody ever asks this, and that's why this is such a unique situation. Because it's like, I'm comfortable enough to ask you, but it's like when you were in high school and your hormones are just like off the freaking charts. The wind blows and you get a boner, or at least some people did. Maybe you didn't. I hope your mom doesn't watch it, but. It's like when you were in the locker room, like I can't imagine being in a locker room with a bunch of women changing. Is it similar or is it like...
Well, because that's what people say. Like a lot of like the straight people like, oh, I don't want a gay guy in our locker room, whatever. Worst nightmare.
Your worst nightmare?
My worst nightmare.
Why is that?
Because it's one of those, because like, especially if you're not out, like the last thing that you want to do is get accused of being gay. Because then, especially in high school, it's what.
Okay.
So all it takes is like let's say that like you're shirtless. If I stare for a second too long,
right?
Then no matter what I say, like there's nothing I can say. Like so for me, it was always like head down, change as fast as possible, and then out the door.
That's interesting because I'm flipping the roles, trying to understand. It's like if there's a woman. At the office, and she's got her tits out.
Yeah,
I'm going to be like, shit. I cannot.
You're doing everything to not look.
Because you don't want to be accused of harassment or anything like that. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that.
It was awful.
And were you out in high school?
No, I was not.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't come out until my first year of college.
So that was probably even more like.
Oh, it was. I was in the locker room for maybe like 45 seconds.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's interesting. Oh, well, if anyone there is nervous about being in a locker room with gay guys, there you go. Nothing to worry about.
No,
they're more uncomfortable than you are.
We ain't looking.
That's hilarious. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed this, man.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have anything, being a representative of the heterosexual community that you're curious about?
Well, no, it's funny because, like for instance, a lot of people don't know anything about the gay community or whatever, but like as a gay person, like we keep up on the straights, so we're
you know what's up.
Yeah. And plus I grew up with 2 older brothers, so
right. Well, if you ever have a podcast, I hope I'm on it,
of
and
course.
It'll be Cheesesteaks with a straight.
Gotcha.
All right, what are we gonna eat? Do you know what you want?
I don't know.
What's your favorite cheesesteak around here? So this is important too because you're coming from LA, so like you're not gonna have another cheesesteak. Oh, any last words? I gotta give I always forget to do that. Last word, if you want, you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't think so. Just like, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate this, like you going out of your way to like to get the other's perspective. And it's funny because like not many people think to do that.
Well, I appreciate the fact that as pissed off as you were, you didn't put me in that situation at the park.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I would never do that. I'd be like, well, why?
I know, but that's
yeah.
probably why I was so interested in having this conversation, because you didn't put me in that situation that would have been so weird, because I'm like, I want to stick up for Z, but like, like you're talking about hate crimes and stuff like that. We don't need to escalate it to this level, It's
Exactly.
like, I just thought it was such an interesting situation. So I appreciate you recognizing, there's more than just how you felt in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing.
All right, well, sorry to steal your last word.
No, you're good.
I don't do well with compliments, so I wanted to compliment you back. I appreciate you, Z.
Thanks.
Let's go get a cheesesteak.